Hi, this is Sandy Anderson, and I'm going to explain the internal and external publics of the Rock Creek School District. When we first consider the different internal publics that occur, three of them really stood out to me, which would be administration and staff, staff and staff, and then staff and students. And so I'll kind of elaborate on each of those individually. Thinking about administration and staff, the different mediums in which are typically used is email, which is used as needed and typically in a digital form. We also have staff meetings, which occur monthly in oral form if there ever is a staff who is not able to attend. For any reason, they are always given the option to Zoom in, so that would also make that a digital platform. And then Friday notes are sent home by both our building principal that addresses the needs within the building, and then our superintendent also sends a Friday note home to all staff. The Board of Education notes are also communicated within the staff on a monthly basis, and that is in a written format, but it is sent digitally. And then in-person conversations always occur just as needed. I would say that administration and staff communication does a pretty good job of considering current and future successes and well-beings of each student and adult. Also engaging families, diverse community members, and school personnel to strengthen student learning. I think through our communication amongst each other allows us to be more equipped for those conversations of engaging those families and making sure that we are reaching everyone that we need to. This is also a way in which administration communicates school improvement that is needed, or the staff is able to communicate what we feel needs addressed as well. There's also yearly surveys that is put out to staff that kind of allows that conversation to continue. And then also an opportunity for us to advocate for the needs of our school and our community through that two-way line of communication. When we consider staff communicating with staff, I think it's kind of a big one that's overlooked. We can communicate through email, which is as needed in a digital form, in-person conversations as needed, usually in an oral form. We have SIT meetings, which occur monthly, oral, written, and digital. I say that because we typically have norms that we follow, where there's summaries and documentation, and then we email out kind of a to-do list from each of those SIT meetings, and that allows that to kind of circle back around, so it's not just one meeting, sit down, and then forget everything. We've also started PLC Plus, which is weekly. It's done orally, and then we also do have a couple digital platforms with a Jamboard that we can communicate or put out ideas, and so I've really appreciated that opportunity as well. We also utilize a Google Drive to update our calendars and the different things that are occurring, and that's all in a digital form. And then staff meetings, which are held monthly in an oral and written form. And I really do feel that our staff with staff communication is usually considering the current and future successes and well-beings of each student and adult, and as well as ways to engage families, diverse community members, and school personnel to strengthen student learning. Especially with our PLCs, we've been focusing hard on developing our why and our engagement in teaching, and that I think through that we're also supporting school improvement and advocating for the needs of our school and community. SIT meetings have been a beneficial aspect of that as well, just kind of talking through different students and their needs and ways that we can utilize the resources that we have to meet those needs. The last one for internal is staff and students, and again, this is one I think that's commonly overlooked. I feel like it looks different at the elementary level versus at the high school level. So a lot of my communication is kind of through the high school avenue. I have email. Teachers email students as needed in a digital form, in-person conversations as needed in an oral form, the Google Drive as needed in a digital form, Power School as needed in a digital form, Facebook usually done weekly in a digital form, and then Twitter is done weekly in a digital form as well. I think that that addresses current and future successes and well-being of each student and adult. I would say it is one area of improvement that could occur, and that's something we're working through on our PLCs. And so by that I mean staff communicating learning objectives to students. And by that, I don't just simply mean we post an I can statement on a board. I mean that we develop relevance for each of our students as they come into our classroom so they know what they are going to learn. And I think that communication will ultimately help to improve our schools as well as student learning, teacher instruction. I think it's just kind of a win-win for everyone. Considering external communication, so that'd be anybody outside of the school, the first one I would address is administration and parents, and then I also have staff and parents, and then businesses and organizations. So first, thinking about how the administration communicates with parents, I do believe that this is one very positive thing that has occurred from COVID. We did not really hear much communication from our board or from our superintendent or actually even from our administrators prior to COVID. It was just kind of like crickets, and you just kind of hoped that everything was working out. But then I believe that COVID really heavily emphasized the need for communication. And so the different ways that administration can do that with parents is through email, which is as needed in a digital form. There's also PTO and site council meetings, which are held monthly in an oral and also in a digital form. The site council, that's usually where we just kind of go through what our district initiatives are, what we are doing as a school to help improve, and just kind of trying to communicate out and generate feedback from parents as well. And that has been a very beneficial avenue, especially last year. We were adopting a new core curriculum for ELA, and it was just a really good opportunity to have those conversations with parents. I will kind of reference back to our previous assignments where typically the most involved parents are, from what I would say, more privileged, and I have seen that in the engagement with those site councils, so I'd like to apply some of that knowledge from previous modules to help increase our capacity to want to reach all parents and generate feedback that way. We also have monthly board meetings, which are in person and in the digital form. I usually just Zoom in, and then I can listen as I'm doing laundry, and I do appreciate that option from our district as well. It has not always been there. Again, another kind of bonus thing that occurred from COVID, so I can still remain involved, but I'm also able to continue to be a mom and do the things within my home that I need to on those evenings as well. In-person conversations are always welcome, and they are as needed, typically orally, and then activity reports come from our activities director, and he does a great job of sending those out weekly. He does it in a digital format, but then he also sends a swift text alert to let you know to look for the digital form. So I think he's done a phenomenal job in opening up that line of communication that did not exist before. I do believe that our administration has made a very positive step in the right direction to promote the current and future successes and well-beings of each student and adult within our district. I do believe that they have taken a more serious role in engaging families. I would say they could improve on engaging diverse community members and just learning ways in which we could further attempt to reach everyone and not just a digital format. I work in a very rural school, and I do believe that many of our community members would prefer to just come in and have a conversation versus an email format. I think that this communication does try to help support school improvement. I do feel as though this is one area in which we could improve. I know it's really hard to gain feedback because when you have 1,400 students, it's hard to hear every single voice within the district, but I kind of feel like with our board meetings where public comment is only 3 minutes, it's typically kind of viewed as a taboo time that people only utilize to complain about things. And I feel like maybe hosting a couple town hall meetings, possibly quarterly or twice a year, would help to make that a more two-way line of communication between our administration and our parents. And I also feel that this advocates for the needs of our school and community in this way. Considering how staff and parents communicate, this is where I think it gets overwhelming. Being a teacher and also being a parent and having 4 kids that have been in 3 different buildings within the district, where every teacher kind of has their own line of communication. I do think there's a need for a systemic change that we all communicate in one specific way, because it is hard to remember to go through and to check PowerSchool, to check Seesaw, to go through and check Google Classroom. So I think that is definitely a large need of our district, is just to have that universal way in which we're going to choose to communicate. Email is heavily used, and I would say that that is the predominant one, but sometimes it's utilized in other ways as well. We also have parent-teacher conferences 2 times a year that are done in person orally. I hosted a literacy information night this year, which was done yearly. I provided it orally, and then I also did a YouTube recording of it, and then kind of sent out like a written pamphlet to parents. So trying to hit all those different mediums. Seesaw is a great way to communicate with parents as well, and then PowerSchool with grades. Then we have with our community partners, we have a very complex makeup of students within our district. Our district is very broad. It covers a lot of miles, and there's just not that many businesses within our actual community. We're kind of a blanket community for Manhattan, and so we just kind of catch everybody that seems to work there. Of the civic organizations that we're engaged with, I'd say the Chamber of Commerce in Westmoreland has been big, as well as the Development and Planning County Committee. There's also Highland Community College that our high school has been working with to develop a partnership for seniors and juniors to kind of get some more credits under their belt. Some of the businesses that we engage with are Farmer State Bank, Dollar General, and there's a lot of just parent-owned businesses that, depending on what grade levels their kids are in, usually determines their level of engagement. And then we have other organizations such as Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, Bible study groups, and 4-H. I do believe that each and every one of these partners do want the best for current and future well-beings of each students, and they do want to engage families. I think the Scouts do a great job of coming in and talking with everyone to really give them a clue what it is about, and to also strengthen student learning. I don't know how much engagement there would be in supporting school improvement, but I do feel that these organizations would be willing to take part in supporting that. One thing that makes me think of is Dollar General has a grant that you can apply for literacy information night, and so where that's been our current school improvement plan, I feel like that could be a partnership that is greater highlighted and used. And then also advocating for the needs of their school and family. There have been a few other that's actually popped up in my mind since I created this. There's a community outreach program in which you can donate to any nonprofit as well as submit anything on there. And then we also have a Rock Creek Endowment Fund that hosts fundraisers, and then as teachers we're able to apply for special projects and everything in that way. So I definitely think that is in support of our school and all students and their future learning. So that kind of summarizes everything. We definitely have areas in which we could do better, but kind of through this presentation I really have realized that we do communicate quite a bit. It seems to be through my engagement with Board of Education meetings recently, or at least over the last 2 years, I almost feel that nobody wants to communicate until they're upset. And I think that's something that we have to proactively reach our parents with and our community members, so we continuously have a conversation to where those opportunities are given to vocalize any concerns or thoughts that they might have. So thank you so much for listening, and have a happy Thanksgiving.